Welcome to the Neural Talks, your gateway to the forefront of AI innovation. I'm your host, Ranjit Malarkot, and together we'll explore the AI revolution with the brightest minds pushing boundaries and shaping the future. Through candid conversations, they share hard-won insights as we unlock the transformative power of AI. Get informed, get inspired. This is the future, and you're in the front row. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Neural Talks, where we have authentic conversations with humans in AI. And for this edition, we have Dr. Venkata Pingali, an academic turned entrepreneur who works at the intersection of ML, data, and systems. Venkata is also the founder and CEO of Scribble Data, a Gen AI products company, enabling customers to build AI assistants and complex workflows with a high degree of accuracy and trust for the insurance and asset management spaces. Venkata, welcome to Neural Talks. So happy to have you.
Thank you. Looking forward to this and also future conversations. I won't be talking much about what Scribble Data itself does. I think my vantage point is as somebody who has been in the startup industry for like almost a decade now.
So diving straight into the first question, right? So in your previous role as a CTO, and probably you're sort of already juggling multiple hats now, I'm sure. You've built a lot of products, you've written a lot of code, you've gone through feedback cycles, you've worked with customers. Succinctly, if somebody was to start, right, and focus on value, where do you think they should start, and how should they approach this?
No, I think even before that, what is value, right? That's a very important question. And why should you care about the value?
Sure.
See, technology is like clay. You can make whatever you want. How do you know that you have to make a pot, or you have to make a vase, or you have to make something else out of it? And that is really determined by your understanding of what will make a difference in this world. And maybe you will get paid as a result of that activity. And the main problem that I see today is that the engineering teams of the world are very interested in the act of transforming the clay and so on, but they don't actually think about the pot that needs to be done. As a result, the output that you get is probably a tube and not a pot, right?
So you're saying that folks are more interested in the tools and the methodologies of actually building rather than worrying about what they're actually building and why they're building it.
Correct.
It's really where you're actually.
A major issue with the tech ecosystem is that we are inundated with new technologies, buzzwords, frameworks every single day. Now, the problem with that is that it is very confusing world. The issue that I see is I go to company after company after company because I have a interesting vantage point. On one side, I'm deeply technical in nature, but I also have a serious business hat. I run a company, and I'm customer facing, and I sell. And so I can't escape the fact that customers will judge based on, will not buy from me because of who I am or what pedigree or what technology I have, but really based on the value that I create for them. And they're fairly dispassionate about it. They're fairly logical about it. At some point, it started sinking into me that this was like a change from the engineering mindset. And once I recognized this, the need for a new mindset, and I started running the company differently, then with that new lens, I started looking around the world, and company after company after company. When I go meet the engineering teams, a major issue that I have is that we are building enormous amount of technology, lots of systems, but almost nobody can talk to me about the customer. So what if you can build all of this technology? Now, our problem is that we are so engrossed in ourselves, we are so proud of all the new technologies that we build. We lose sight of the goals. Why are we doing all of this? The same thing is happening in a recursive way at an individual level, at a team level, at an organization level. And that's why we see the kinds of devastation that we are seeing in the market today. For example, if you look at where did the most of the tech community spend its time in the AI ML data space for the past, 6, 7, 8 years. First, there was the modern data stack where we built all the ETL systems and snowflakes of the world and so on. Then came the machine learning ML ops stack. Then came the SaaS stack. Today, all three have been declared as dead.
So interesting, Venkata. So I think so. What I'm hearing you say is that if you're an engineering or a product or a dev team that's actually looking at this, before you get into actually using tooling, exploring how to build, exploring, what are the elements that goes into the process of building. First, spend some time understanding why you're building, whom you're building for, what is the value that you're going to be delivering for that customer, and how that customer's life is going to be changing because of what you're building. And that is a very, very important point that defines value for your product or your service, is what I'm hearing you say. Is that a fair statement, Venkata?
True. I want to add nuance to this. This whole assumption that you actually know what value is to be given, or you can logically arrive at it, and so on. That has not been my experience. It is more like a discovery process. And the discovery process goes through many different forms and iterations.
Correct.
Right? So to me, the way to think about value is as almost like a detective work. You have to figure out, right, what the life of the customer is, what the incentives of the customers is, what their preferences are, and accordingly evolve your own understanding of what is the problem that needs to be solved, why it needs to be solved, how it needs to be solved, who are all the stakeholders. This is an ongoing process.
But Venkata, if I may stop you there for a second. So, I mean, now that you've sort of, built many products for many customers, now, if you were to take a second and then look back, right? And then look back and say, okay, I'm now delivering value for this customer. How will you sort of like bound this value? I mean, will you bound it is it like bound in terms of customers? Is it bound in terms of time, in terms of features? How do you quickly put a framework around this to say, this is how you actually start this process and this is how you bind this before you actually go to the next stage, which is sort of going back to a product team and saying, okay, now that you've defined this value, now spec it for me.
So we don't do it that way. One of the things, understanding the iterative process of the discovery of value and building of the product, right? So one of the things I did differently as an engineering head of my organization compared to all my previous attempts and so on is, from get-go, this platform of ours is designed to very, very rapidly productionize very simple ideas.
Okay.
So my typical time to going to a demo is about 2 days. In 2 days, I want to see the first touch and feel of the whole thing. This whole you cannot arrive at the nuances of the problem or even the value without actually experiencing it and without using these they could be thought of as props or facilitators of the discovery. So what typically happens in our case is that we built it out like 2 days, and then all of us stare at it, right? And then we ask, is this something that is gelling with us? Is this feeling very natural, right? Based on everything that we know about the customer and about the problem. And if we feel comfortable, then we take it directly to the customer. We have no shame showing them work in progress. Just using that, because the customer, this assumption that the customers actually also know the value is I think, not true, right? They react to things more than anything else. So give them something to react, a document, a picture, an artifact of some sort, where they will say, no, this is not what I think. I think it should be like this.
No,
right?
Very interesting.
This is not solving my problem. Right?
So I think, so what you're saying is basically is that to discover value, number one, start by creating something which is a prototype. It doesn't have to be something that is perfect. Create it quickly. And then once you actually have many people in your team looking at it, put it out in front of the customer and have them come back and react. Because what you're saying is the definition of value in a customer's mind is not something that's playing in the foreground. It's something that's actually playing somewhere in the back. And when they see things and when they hear things or when they actually move things around or you move it for them, that's when they react, and the actual value then gets translated into something bigger and more specific, which then, is something that actually comes out for you to actually then spec as part of a product or as a service to then take forward.
Yeah, I mean, so there are I think of it as a search. This is one search strategy, if you will, right?
Okay.
To give them something to react with. I will tell you another search strategy, which is quite common. Go have coffees.
Okay.
Right? Um, just hear whatever is going on, because the assumption is that the boundaries that you have drawn for the problem or your own understanding of the problem will change when you have more context about the world in which they live and the kinds of choices and preferences. I remember this very, very distinct journey, when a distinct point in time when I think I became an entrepreneur from being an engineer. So I was going about making customer presentations, and it was going nowhere. Finally, I was getting very frustrated. This was like about a decade back. And I said, let me leave my laptop. Let me leave all my props. I will not do anything. I will just go to this was a coffee chain that we were interacting with. And they were having a number of like analytical and modeling problems. And so I remember the day when I said, I won't make any presentations. I will go without agenda there, just with an open mind, with a desire to listen to what they have to say. Because it was mostly me talking, like telling them what to do, this and that. And I remember going to this basement with the team, with the customers team, and having coffee with them and chit-chatting about a number of things. And I walked away with a couple of like super important facts for why I was like missing the target, like for many, many weeks, because I didn't care to ask some very basic questions to them, right? So the second search strategy is empathy. Just engage with them as individuals. Let them tell their personal stories, their aspirations, their desires, and so on. You'll be amazed by how much it influences how you have thought about the product and what you build. A lot of over-engineering today, in my opinion, is happening because either you're ill-informed or misinformed. And the product is a function of the quality of information that you have. And therefore, all of these different strategies are to clarify within your own mind as to what exactly are you doing, why are you doing, and how should you be doing. Maybe you don't need all of that engineering, right? That you plan to build, right?
Oh, absolutely. So I think this is very, very good, Venkata. So what you're saying is the first strategy, of course, we spoke about. The second one you said is develop an empathy for the customer and the ecosystem in which the customer is operating. For our IT folks, stepping out for a coffee is one of the best breaks that they can actually look forward to. So stepping out for a coffee with folks from the customer side and just listening in terms of what they're going through and how they're actually describing their environment and where they're finding problem areas and where they're finding other sort of ancillary problem areas coming in can actually help to sort of understand the landscape better and therefore figure out how your solution and your product will actually fit in better.
Third thing is experience yourself.
Experience.
I was part of a large marketing campaign where I had to model the propensity to decide for different demographics and so on. So we would have this, I had very complex pipeline merging a lot of data, and we would have maps and colors, all of those kinds of things. And then it struck me that all of this is giving me an intuitive idea, but it is not the same as gut feel, right? I want to feel this, like if the customers are preferring a particular, they're making a particular choice, I want to see them making that choice, if you will, right? So what I had done was I went off into the street where mixed with the ultimate users of all of this, because this was a field marketing campaign, like with people on the street and so on. This lent itself to a strategy where I would take my map and I would walk the streets. I would look at the people, their lifestyles, what the shops look like, and what dresses they are wearing, and keep matching it to the data, so that I know what is the meaning of the chart that I'm seeing, right, in the real world. So this is a case where you are using your own direct experience as an end user, or going out into the field to bring the data to life, if you will.
No, this is a fantastic point, Venkata. I mean, honestly, I mean, this is something that's extremely rare, and also sort of the most valuable. So what you're saying is, instead of just building something that's in the computing world, on the digital world, go out there and experience it in the physical world as well, and as well as sort of experiencing this as the customer who is actually building this product, and the consumer of this product as well,
Yes.
for whom the customer is actually building this product for. That then sort of enriches your entire view on end to end, from the time of from inception to actual end use by your client's customer, if that's one of the layers that you're going through, or the end direct customer who's actually consuming the product, which then sort of then gives you color to your data, gives you color to the systems you're bringing in, gives you color to the algorithms and why they work and how they work and how relevant they will be to sort of results that they're actually outputting. This is great.
So I can see, look, ultimately, see, what are we trying to do in this, all this AI, ML, and so on, right? We are empowering people to make better decisions about their own life, and make their life easier through automation and things like that. Now, you have to really understand that this is more than just a model and just a metric of accuracy and all of those kinds of things. You have to appreciate that all this machine learning is going into the real world, and it has impact on real people and their lives. So the all of this, to me, the central construct is value. Everything comes out of the value. Your desire to understand the value, your desire to figure out how to deliver the value in the most effective way, right? In most cases, you don't need to build a lot of technology. Most systems and processes are poorly engineered. Maybe a recommendation about a change in the workflow is enough, right?
So that brings us to the next point, right, Venkata? So now let's assume that you've now taken any of these three, or maybe a combination or all three of these value discovery mechanisms that you have actually mentioned. Now, once you've discovered this value, right, now, you obviously now need to build something in order. You need to go down to make it into a product, right? Now, what would you recommend as the best and the quickest way to sort of, or a framework to sort of make it into a product? How would you go about defining this and sort of like distilling this down?
I think, so if you are speaking the customer's language, if you actually understand their world, that will automatically inform the channels by which you can deliver. Maybe they need an Excel sheet only. They don't need any of these fancy websites, this and that. When you deeply understand your customers, that from that understanding will automatically follow out what is the minimum required thing to deliver to them. That will make a difference to this world. Everybody is busy. What I found by and large is that they're rational people. If it helps them achieve their KPIs, accomplish their goals and so on, there is no problem with respect to adoption of technology. The resistance happens because we are pushing down their throat technologies that are like too heavy, unnecessary, and they don't add much value. Now, the trick, however, is that about value and your own understanding is that your working assumption at all points in time should be that your understanding of this is incomplete and it is evolving. So today's understanding of value will be very different from tomorrow's understanding of your value. And that means whatever systems, processes you have built over a period of time should be by definition evolvable.
So a question there for you, Venkata. So for example, so we have thousands of, digital e-commerce, is far more prevalent today, is far more widespread. So if you're a product manager, right, you typically have more product managers on the digital e-commerce and the other spaces. Now, when it comes to AI, right, um, obviously now there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a huge, explosion of information. And at the same time, now that you've discovered this value from this customer using one of these one of these methodologies we've just spoken about, what would be different for a product manager in AI to sort of incorporate and sort of put down this value into the product?
I think, see, look, the at every point in time, there have always been newer and newer technologies.
Correct.
So the landscape of what value can be created for whom, when, and why is continuously evolving.
Correct.
What AI does at some level is that it puts all of these on steroids. For the first time in 300 years, we have a situation where the users can reach to a human level intelligent systems. This has never happened in the past. This is the first time where there will be systems within our reach which can help us think 10x deeper and further than we have ever done. So we are in this wild value creation and destruction phase, in my opinion. And the way, in my opinion, to cope with all of these is that you should leave behind your experiences of the past, because this is not a linear trajectory going forward. And you should be heavily in the business of experimenting with all of these new tools to even discover what kinds of value, in what ways, what modalities this value can be created by the end users. So if I were a young product manager, engineer, I would use these tools day in and day out with the sole purpose of understanding what are these tools to begin with, what difference do they make, and then from there extend to your customer base. And because remember, they're also experimenting with all of this, their own ideas are changing. So it's a moving target. So you have to be in continuous sync with your own customer base, so that as their thought process is moving forward, your thought process is accordingly moving forward, and you're developing the meta frameworks to be able to translate the customer's vision, ideas into tools, processes, and methods within your own organization. Especially from the engineering community, there is a lot of monoculture within the engineering community. In my opinion, if you have to be an AI product manager, you are looking at dramatically increasing the breadth of your own understanding of the world. You will look well beyond the technology. You will look at everything from history, literature, economics, to understand the implications of changing worldviews, because this is not a purely technology question. So here you're talking about dramatically ramping up your own mental models to be sophisticated enough to cope with the new realities that will be created by the AI. Right? Tomorrow, for example, one of the issues that we are going to have is that all these old people are going to use a lot of these voice-based mechanisms. The way they get information, the way they learn things are going to be very different. Maybe you have to meet them where they are. Maybe they did not adopt a lot of technology, but this one they may adopt. Their attitude might change.
No, got it. So I think so. What you're saying is, one, have a broad worldview to understand how things are going to evolve and fit in.
Tech is too narrow for you to understand what is happening.
And second is, when you have a broad worldview as part of that, also have a broader, circle to whom you're talking to and exchanging ideas with. Because with that circle comes in new ideas and new sparks for innovating and sort of thinking differently, so that these ideas can then piece together and sort of be coming as part of your products. And then third, what you're saying is nothing that you're actually developing today is not going to, stay as it is in the next coming few days. The customer's mindset
of ideas and products is very short.
Yeah. So you're saying the customer's mindset is changing, your product mindset, your product is changing. And then once you put it out there, the customer's mindset is changing again. Another product is going to come in. So be open to sort of keep evolving this and sort of moving this forward.
Yes.
And you're saying that the technology platform for AI is so dramatic that it's going to make this entire evolution that's been happening at a slower speed is not going to happen at a much faster speed, is what I'm hearing you say. Is that
Correct.
is that a fair?
Absolutely. And this also means that you have to think seriously about the technology organization process that will help you cope with this wild ride that you are going to have over the next decade or so. Because every day is a new reality, right? Make an active effort to understand the era in which we are living and develop the appropriate mechanisms, teams, and processes, and so on. Even within the AI era, you will use these kinds of audio visual mechanisms to be able to engage with whatever product service offering that you have to the world. So the trick is to inform yourself, keep an open mind, and be deeply interested in the evolving worldview. Because without these, you don't know what product to build. Whatever product you build will last only like until the next announcement from somebody.
And to add to your last point, which is actually a very pertinent point, you're saying that product managers need to now, and also engineers, obviously, we live in a multimodal world. We no longer live in a world where people are just going to be using a website or a phone or an app or whatever. You're now going to be interacting through images, through text, through videos as well. So think about those as well as what you're actually leaving on the table. But coming to the interesting wild ride that you just spoke about, and wild rides typically happen across product and engineering. So I'm going to, we're limited on time, so I'm going to move on to, from product to engineering. So now that we've defined a little bit of how to discover value, how to sort of bound it into a box, put it around a product and sort of wrap it around in the product. So once you've sort of wrapped it around in a product and sort of like put it together and spec'd it, coming to engineering, right? I mean, coming to this is where the product really starts hitting the digital ground, if you may call it. How does what are the tenets with which the teams and the engineering teams and the engineers should actually now start looking at making this product into now a reality?
So I'm a big believer in telling stories about our customers, telling stories about our own learning, the learning that we have had about their world, so that in a quasi engineering language, so that the engineers are on the same page as the product managers, who are on the same page as the customers. If there is alignment between all three of us, then there isn't a lot of friction in the product adoption or
No, this is pure gold again. I mean, so what you're saying, Venkata, is number one. I think for the engineering team to even start building, I think the first thing that we need to ensure, or anybody has to ensure, is ensuring that the customer, the product, and the engineering teams are on level ground in terms of expectations, in terms of value to be delivered, in terms of product or service to be delivered, and that there has to be a variety of methods that is actually being used to sort of convey this and make sure that this is equalized, including a feedback loop, is what you're saying.
I use a few methods, right? Most of our tech calls are actually around storytelling.
Okay.
Right? And all of our engineers are customer facing. Whatever work that they do, they directly present to the customers, because there is nothing like seeing the customers react to your work product, which gives you instant feedback that no amount of like product managers that can do. By today, what happens is that it goes through two levels of filtering, and by the time the engineers know about it, it is like something else, right? So all our engineers are customer facing, and the metrics, even for the engineer, I tell all of our engineers, like we're a small team, but even then I tell them the best code is 0 lines of code. If you can solve the problem without writing a single line of code, you would be my perfect engineer. And I will tell you, I mean, I've been an engineer my entire life, right? I have multiple degrees and so on. I can tell you that this is magic, right? As a Scribble, as a company, we are able to punch way above our weight and win against some of the global majors, even with the small team that we have, is because there is a sense of purpose, and then there is clarity. And I can tell you that you in your career, in your KPIs, whatever you in your goals, you will be able to outperform all of them if you spend time thinking about why and what should you be doing and how should you be doing from first principles. And I can tell you that entrepreneurs like me, where I talk to a bunch of other CEOs, and they're desperate for people, thinking engineers who are well aligned to the value. That will set you apart from everybody else in the market, because this is not a commodity.
So Venkata, so we spoke about, we spoke about value. What's next? I mean, in terms of our engineering team, there is so much out there in front of them, right? If we were to simplify this, distill this down, and bring this down to the core elements that you want them to focus on, what would be your advice to them?
First of all problems are not the same. If you are servicing a banking API, then the approach is going to be like very, very defensive. Then if you are if a fast moving startup which is trying to create value and raise funding and so on, then the approach is different. In whatever be the case, you have to, there is no substitute to original thinking within your context. In our context, we use two principles to build out on a continuous basis within our system and then ship. The first principle is rough consensus running code. This I picked up from my during my PhD times.
Okay.
Right?
Rough consensus and running code.
Running code.
Okay.
That means we don't have to agree upon everything. We broadly have to agree upon the direction. Okay. And what we need to see, however, is running code, because it is in the process of actually executing something, implementing something, you realize about new dimensions of the problem that you had not thought about. So the first principles, whenever we talk about any project or any activity for the entire team, we first get to a rough consensus, and the next thing we want to see is a code, running code, like typically 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. It doesn't have to be everything. Its sole purpose is to educate us about the problem space that we are going after.
Get some consensus going amongst the team and then bring something to life.
Yes.
Right? And that code has to now be alive. It has to be talking to at least, not to everything in the entire universe that you're going to build, but at least to some salient points, which are core to that, which will never change. Correct. Bring it to life and deploy it and then get it going. Okay, perfect. Great.
The second principle or idea is this idea of ship of thesis. That means when you bring this product to life, you should assume that we are going to replace pretty much every component of it. So the ship of thesis, going back to the Greek mythology, is that you keep replacing one part after another within that ship, and then it becomes a new ship. Now the question is this the same old ship or a new ship, right? So that ship of thesis is it's a philosophical construct, useful for discussion and so on. The way we think about software is also that it's a ship of thesis. That means that it will have a set of pieces, and we are going to continuously replace each piece with a better version of that particular piece. And the whole ship should be working at all points in time when we are doing that. So how do you design in a modular fashion with the right abstractions so that you can keep replacing the piece? You have to understand what information is being exchanged between different systems, what the right API is, so that if any replacement of the module has happened in the background, nobody should even notice about it. So we do that for the front, and we call it widgetization. We basically, like Lego blocks, we assemble, and every day we come up and construct either new Lego block or new strategy to put the Lego blocks together. So you need to approach this. My only suggestion to you is, irrespective of which strategy you use, it has to be a conscious strategy that recognizes the fact that this system is going to evolve. You are going to redo this whole thing 2, 3, 4, 5 times before you are done. Third, there will be many things that you will have to learn about the system. So you better instrument the system that gives you a visibility into what that application or whatever system is doing. And then after that, it's a continuous process.
No, this is very informative, Venkata. So you spoke about a lot of things. I'm going to try and distill them down. So first thing you said is rough consensus, get the system alive and running, get some code going. And then you said that this system that's actually operational, you're going to quickly keep making changes to this and then keep, tuning the system with multiple moving parts. Because of this, now when you look at this, you're going to now instrument this, this system so that you can actually understand about each and every moving part a little bit better. And you're also going to define interfaces across these systems so that you can keep replacing these parts and making them better. Question to you. In the AI multimodal world that we're actually working on today, and we sort of multiple solutions are coming in, is all this as relevant, or are there pieces that are less relevant and some pieces which are more relevant today?
No, all of this has to do with more with problem solving than with the specific technologies. Except that in the AI, the problem that we have is that deep inside our architecture are components that are probabilistic in nature. So that basically means that you have to have much stronger ability to observe what is happening, much stronger guardrails, right? In
Guardrails.
terms of how the system is performing, a very rapid ability to debug this system. I think when it was one thing to design systems to spec, if you will, it is another thing to design systems around LLMs. And more, there would be only these probabilistic systems and processes. So each of the module now should be not exactly aware, but it can't be passive with respect to what else is going on around it. For example, let's say you make an API call, and the whatever is the module that is at the receiving end of the API call has to ask the question, could this be a spurious input? And then accordingly change its own behavior. So this probabilistic understanding and coping with this statistical variation is something that is going to percolate through the entire system. So I believe that here, for example, the product manager and the UX will have like huge role, much bigger role than the traditional application design, because here the degree to which the surface area, the number of possibilities that the system can throw at you are much, much higher. So you need to have strong product thinking and UX thinking to be able to manage the customer experience so that we don't throw them off.
Great that you actually touched upon that point, right? We're all used to designing in a deterministic system, where we are designing for e-commerce and digital and everything else. Now, this is when we're designing with probabilistic systems. I think the paradigm is shifting, and I hope UX designers and product managers are listening in probabilistic systems to sort of present that interface to, especially to non-technical customers, right? Presenting that information in a non-threatening and in a non-harmful way, and sort of allowing graceful recovery is actually an art.
As AI goes deeper and deeper into the enterprises and it is handling more and more expert level work, like the ones that we do, for example, we take great care because our ultimate beneficiaries are pensioners and they will get hurt. Like if there is poor use of technology, and there are fairly sophisticated actuaries and experienced individuals who are driving the whole system. Now, in the middle of all of this, you're bringing in LLMs into their whole process. And one of the things our customers appreciate, and we also, I think we feel good about, is that we have become half actuaries. We half live in their world to even know how to correctly deliver this. Right. And
No,
I see the same thing happening across industry after industry.
No, this is fantastic because I think you have now immersed yourself into a domain. Now, we've defined, a system to the engineering folks. They've now delivered a product. And this value now has started actually hitting the ground. Now, are there non-technical factors that people should now look at?
Yeah, I think it depends on various domains. So my suggestion to anybody building products is if you correctly understand the customer's context, you will find all the dimensions that you have to care about. There is an emotional cost that the end users are paying in terms of interacting with your own product. You have to understand value in all of its totality and the risk factors in all of its totality. You can't say that I won't take care of this or I can't take care of that. I have to take care of the legal issues. I have to take care of the network access issues, the UX issues, their own audit and compliance requirements, whatever that is necessary, right? Now, everything is going to, that's why the notion of value and customer understanding is so central. Everything falls out of that, in my opinion.
You've touched upon this beautifully. In fact, in another podcast with Bharani, we touched upon another non-technical aspect that actually costs, a very large airline quite dearly. And your point about people, even when customers are actually interacting with AI systems, they assume that it is a persona. It's a beautiful point that you made. They don't imagine that it's an actual AI bot and therefore give it a concession. They imagine that they're speaking to a person, or they're speaking to something that's actually authorized by a set of people on behalf of a company, and therefore talking to it and give it as much importance as when they're talking to a person on the phone or on chat or in person. So there is no real concession that's actually coming out and being applied. So we covered a lot of aspects, on why, where do we start? We're starting with value. How do we discover value? You gave us a bunch of discovery frameworks. A quick question to you. So now that you have dealt with, one build cycle of this product, and then maybe we go through one more build cycle. Is there anything else that people should be thinking of in terms of keeping this entire build cycle current and sort of going? What do you think, they should think of to actually move this forward?
So the way to think about this is as a spiral, not as a loop. This will be continuously evolving, and you are on constant search for whether we think of value as a static entity, right? But value is a dynamic entity. It could be decreasing with time, increasing with time, morphing with time, and so on. And the product's goal is to keep matching the desired value. For that, this process of continuously asking, is my product delivering the value? Is this the value that I should be delivering to my customer? Are there other dimensions to the value that I have missed, and so on? Because people's lives are dynamic. I think a big flaw in some of the companies that I saw was that once the product is shipped, the work is done. That's the concept. Your work is never done. And you have to be in continuous touch with the end users. If customers sees you as a partner in a journey, you will evolve along with them.
So, Venkata, thank you. You've given us a great perspective, from your many hats that you actually wear, and from your deep thinking that is actually clearly evident from, this podcast, with a rich experience and multifaceted views that you've actually come out and brought out today. But I have a single question that I want to sort of still ask you at the end of this podcast, which I ask all my my podcast interviewees. Sorry. What would you think, Venkata, is the one thing that is not going to change in this world of AI in the coming decade?
Data.
Data.
The mucky, messy data. It's going to be like this. It's only going to grow. AI models will come, AI models will go, applications will come, applications will go. But almost this entire facade is going to be constructed out of the same old dirty data.
Fantastic. With that, thank you so much, Venkata.
I have one plug, shameless. On LinkedIn, I posted about 2 weeks back, or maybe 1 week back, an article on getting organization alignment across geographical boundaries. A lot of the companies today are US-India combined operation, and it's proving to be a significant challenge to get them all aligned and delivering in a high performance way. So I put some thoughts down on LinkedIn, check my profile, and from there navigate to the article. And if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them.
Sure. So Venkata, so we'll definitely include your link at for link to your LinkedIn profile and to the blog post in our post today. But thank you so much, Venkata. To our viewers, we have many more interesting sessions with Venkata lined up. So Venkata, thank you once again, and looking forward to having you in more talks and also at our events in the Neural Talks. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody that's listening.
Thank you. Thanks for the audience. Thanks for spending so much time with this podcast. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Neural Talks. Hit subscribe or follow us on LinkedIn to stay informed of many more great episodes on AI coming up. We're the Neural, where humans meet AI.